Is Aon Daly, and today we're going to go over the Software I inventory system project for Western Governors University. We're going to go over how everything works, what I did to code it, some things about JavaFX, and we're going to go super in depth about how this works, how you can create this yourself. Before that, we're going to demonstrate it first, and then we're going to go into the hows and how it works after that. So let's just do a demonstration right now so you can see everything working. And let's minimize IntelliJ so you see just the program. So this inventory management homepage, very simple. It only lets you do two things. You can add parts, you can add products. So let's add a part. And we're going to name it real simple. Let's just name it Bob. Give it value of 2 all around. So you have a name, inventory, which is the current stock of the item, price, how much it cost, max, which is the maximum value, minimum value for the inventory, and your machine ID. For an in-house part, that's supposed to be like, oh, it came from this machine in the factory, and outsource is supposed to have company name because it came from outside the company. So let's save this. If you save a part, it gives you a success window, and it tells you the ID and name. This is for all the parts and products. And you can see it's in the list here in the table view. So let's add a few more. So let's add an outsourced one so you can see that. And let's name this one Steve. Steve is all the same stuff. 222. Well, let's make it slightly different. 1. And company name, Steve Inc. Oh, my bad. It gives you warning messages when you make a mistake, and I made a mistake. So the current inventory cannot be below the minimum required, so it means I need to change this. Inventory, let's make it all 3. So that way it flows a bit better. Success. Alright, saved. Success. You can now see Bob and Steve. Now let's modify this. Let's just modify one, just so you can sort of see how that works. So modification. Let's modify Bob. Instead of a machine ID, we want to make him an outsourced Bob. So Bob now comes from Bob Inc. Sorry, Bob. And save. It saves under the same ID because we're modifying an existing item. And look, Bob is right there still. And we can if you try to add a new part. So let's name Alex, give her a value of 1. Alex's ID is still 3 because it doesn't, modifying a part won't change the next item's ID. So, and let's just try to show the exception handling. So let's name a part Dragon. And let's just try putting letters in everything. If you do that, it gives you error messages. What? You can't just do that. You need to enter values. And there is a particular one for if your name is too long, it'll give you a name is over 20 characters alert there. So it has an exception that catches that. So let's name this something. Let's get this all appropriate. But if you have, let's say, okay, you have integers in here, but you don't have this done properly. So let's say you have an inventory of 5, but you have a max of 4, and your min is 3. It will tell you max value cannot be greater than the current inventory. So there you go. And let's say I fix this to where my inventory is, let's say it's 2, max is 4, min's 3. It'll still tell you the current inventory cannot be below the minimum required. So it'll still catch if you do this. And then I want to show one more. I can't set the maximum below the minimum. So see, it says the min value cannot be greater than the max. So it'll tell you anything at current inventory cannot be below the minimum required. So if you have exceptions like this, it'll catch them for the inventory stuff. And it can stack. You can have all 3 messed up, and it'll let you know. So let's just save the dragon. Okay. Save. You can search. So I can search by name, right? I can also search by ID. You can organize your column headers. sort however you want to, just like you would in a real part. In a real inventory system, you'd want to be able to sort. So we can have products and, oh, sorry, we can delete. So let's delete this. You delete dragon, boom. It lets you delete things. So the delete function works as well. And let's try to add a product. So let's name this product plain. Okay. See, all three parts are still here. And I can add, let's just add all three to this product. So a product can have multiple parts associated with it. And you can remove, and then reassociate all day long. And it'll give you the messages that what you did was successful. I think even if this project didn't require that, I would still add that because it makes troubleshooting and try to figure out what just happened much, much easier. Okay, so you can save it, see successful. You can modify parts. So let's say I don't want this part to have anything associated with it. Well, let's just remove Bob from it and let's change it from plane to helicopter. We can do that. It'll change it. No problem. And let's try it. You can search. So I can search for helicopter 1. It'll pull up. If you don't have it, let's add another product so that way it's a better demonstration. And let's name this thing city. I'm just whatever the first word comes to mind. Save, successful, 1001, so it's still incrementing properly. And see, city, you can see that the search method is working correctly, as it should. And if you try to delete a product that has part associated with it, it will give you an error message. Now, there is something unique that I thought originally was a bug, but it's not. The parts in the parts master list here are independent of the product. So even if I delete parts here, they can still exist here, and that's not a bug, that's normal. So yeah, that's basically, and let's modify these parts. Let's clear out everything before we delete everything out. Just remove all the parts. Okay. And let's delete, and exit. And it exits properly. So that's basically it for a demonstration of the program. Doesn't give you any error messages here. Everything works as intended. Now onto the actual code. This project works using the Model View Controller Design Framework. So the idea of Model View Controller is that your program is divided into 3 sections. You have a model, which has all your internal logic. You have your controller, which is going to sort of define what happens when you press a button, what happens when you click exit. And then you have your view, which is going to be, okay, how does this all look? And that is all clearly separated like it's supposed to be. View is all right here. We have CSS, which is styling, our FXML, which is what gives our structure to the windows. This basically defines buttons. See, this is defining a table view. Not defining a table view, but defining this is just defining stuff for the grid pane, sorry. But we're basically defining how everything looks. The scene builder for all that, which was pretty good. I think you'll find that designing the interface is much easier than getting the interface to do anything. Designing the interface is probably the easiest part of this whole project, actually. So yeah, this is the view. This is just how things look. And let's look at some of the CSS. Nothing fancy. You can set the text, the font, borders, all that. Nothing that fancy. The controllers to find what, actually, let's start before controllers, let's go to the model, because this is something I find wonderful. So this guy, Eden Coding, did this video about how to do model view controller in JavaFX. So I borrowed his idea, but the implementation is definitely my own, because his was a little bit simplistic. It was for just one label, pretty much. This is a lot more complicated than that. So he gave me the general approach, but I still had to define, okay, how is this going to actually work? So there's 2 lists. that cover one for parts, one for products, and everything you add in the controllers goes to these two lists. So that way there's a consistent list everywhere you go throughout the program. If you notice, all those items I had when I went to add product, they were all still right there. And this is sort of more going in depth about how I did this. It's all in the Java documentation if you want to really get into it. It's quite a bit, but if you notice, all the code, there's getters and setters for everything that needs to be got. Um, Access modifiers are appropriate where they need to be. It's public where it needs to be public, private where it needs to be private. I have a few interfaces. I have controllers. So let's go into the controllers. Um, so this is the main controller. This is basically what controls everything of how the main page works. It's quite a bit of code. As you can see, the main page does a lot. And basically, this main page, if you, I want to show sort of the most important thing about this is whenever you change pages, it sets the model of the next page. So it has a model object, which is just one object that's getting shared, and this model object is getting passed around, and that's what enables data to be shared between each class. And that's what enables consistent data. So that way, if you add something one place or delete something one place, it will be deleted or added in the next part of the program. And I used a base item controller. So this is where most of my methods are. And this way, everything can sort of have methods all in one place. So I can sort of change all the exception handling and stuff like that is done here. So I can do most of it here instead of doing it for each and every controller bit by bit. This is much easier. And this also sets the initial model of the program. So the model gets set right in the beginning. So I don't have to do that every time. Just gets set here, and all I do is just pass it around. Make sure everybody has the same thing. So yeah, and it's static, so that way it always exists. And basically, otherwise, you have to create an item controller class instance, and I don't want to do that, so it needs to be static. Um, so yeah, that's basically the program. Java documentation contains everything about how more in depth how it works and all the errors I had. I really went in on all the exceptions I ran into. I ran into quite a bit. Uh, I kind of made this harder than it needed to be completely honest. But I learned a lot, and I got to sort of flex my muscle and sort of demonstrate, the way that I believe model view controllers should be implemented. Now, there's still things that I wanted to do better. I think the table views is the one thing I want to do better because the table views, I had to basically do the one thing I didn't want to do, which was have the method sort of be duplicated in multiple places. Um, but that's because there really wasn't a easy way to set table views without running into issues with inheritance and calling the wrong class's methods. So that's the one thing for the next implementation I'd like to change. Other than that, I really enjoyed doing this project. I had a great time, and it was overall very informative. Thanks for watching this video. Have a great